I think that another big issue people have with deconstructing is that religion gives you an objective moral standard, and it's hard to make a case for your morals from a subjective standpoint. Um, I see what you're saying, but I've had this discussion with a number of people because they say, "Where do you get your morals from? Where do you get your standards from if you're not a human being?" I mean, wow, not if you're not a human being, if you're not a Christian, or if you don't believe in God, where do you get your standards from? And I always tell them, look, if you look at like more humanistic thinking, which is basically look at what is best for us and look at what is best for humanity and live in that way. And then you get some sort of moral standard, even as an atheist, right? Some sort of moral standard based on like a humanistic approach. And then Christians say, well, we have this approach, and God is the one who gives us our standards and ruling of life and all that, you know, the morals and stuff. But here's the interesting thing that I always tell people is that if you look at both of the morals that like both humanistic type thinking and you know, religious moral standards, if you look at the moral standards like on a basic level, they're pretty much the same. And so what does that say about both? Like, my point is the argument can be made from both sides. So whenever I hear people making arguments out of moral standards, I always like, it always trips me up because I'm like, you can't really say that because humanistic thinking ends up with a similar result, just looking at what's best for me and the people around me. They both end up with a similar result. And so I hear what you're saying, but yeah. Where do you think they come from? The moral standards, moral values. I think they come from the evolution of human consciousness and human mind. I'm talking from a more atheistic standpoint. The human consciousness and the human mind, and just seeing throughout history and like from the past and from different things, obviously, that we've seen, oh, this doesn't feel good, this hurts people. And it's like love and loss, right? It's like we see that this helps us to fall in love, helps us to change, brings us into joy, brings us into this and that. And we've also felt that, like, you know, killing and murdering people doesn't do anything good for our society. It doesn't do any good for people. So life is always better than in regards to living life. Life is always better than death, that approach. And I think it's just evolved from these really simple ideas and simple things of just actually experiencing what's right and wrong, and then having these moral standards pop up out of that. Now, obviously, Christians and creationists would completely disagree with me in that, which is fine. But I don't think the argument from moral reasoning for God's existence can really be met. I don't think it's a good argument, personally.